I know that NASA needs some other things, and I need to explain something. Oh God, I'm shining like crazy. It's okay. I need to explain some things about how and why I did certain things in the field, and you have to understand that being in the field means you're up against opposers always, because they're owned by government officials or private industry, your neighbor who hates you, church groups who might be investigating or trying to test you, and they place them around you like crazy. And those of us who are artists and who have they talk about paying the dues, and I know that the suffering and starving artist is what I went through, and I know that I chose not to do a split or share because I can't be owned by an industry or a company or a corporate head because of the royalty factor, and that means they're going to try to overthrow Russian industry or Egyptian industry or United Nations policy or ICAJ gavel. So there's purposes and reasons why I had to be strict on validation of my ownership of my own work and of my own rights. So part of that is uh, to fight for the anti-theft. And what I mean by that is that people have tried so hard to thieve my ideas and my oil paintings and my drawings and the cosmic information that I've contributed in quantum physics to NASA. And this is how you're going to tell is the sexual capability, right? It is, and that's already been fought over by Egypt. And the 10 days that I was there, he wasn't allowed to have any pleasure, and he cried. And he couldn't get me to yell and scream at him in public to make it look like I was some crazy nut. It was just waiting for me to submit to some kind of contract to prostitute, and I wouldn't. And he's some kind of producer of porn or something, and the level of hostage situation was so sensitive that no one knew how to deal with it because Egypt was in Mexico and USA was in Mexico, and they didn't know how to handle two Egyptians, and they didn't think about Russia because Putin got in there too, and it was a big fight, wasn't it? It was, and it got so good for me, and I took what I needed, which was my mother said in prayer, because I get to talk to her from time to time, take the phone because it's a 10-day hostage deal. I need you to take those communications. I said, okay. So I went in, did what I had to do, took the phone, and registered some 80 handwritten documentations for ICOJ. It was so fabulous, I can't even begin to tell you. And it got so inundated in my station of plug-in, and where I got fought for Wi-Fi was so busy with agents from everywhere, France, everywhere, and they started. The crew was so um, stressed out, and they started leaving me breakfasts and stuff, good breakfast, right at the top pick of the can. I had to go into the can, but it was full breakfasts, and most of the time they were covered, of course, or wrapped, and then they would leave. They'd be okay as long as I could handle it without them seeing, which is a clean cup and free coffee or free access to the soda. And I ate often. It was brilliant. But guess what? I lost communications from time to time because someone would plug in next to me and rob my Windows capability, or virus spread my messenger or something. And it got to where I had to find a way to get through to um, internet, and I'd have to worm my way around to old tabs and rely upon old tabs to get back to where I can get back online. I couldn't get online by entry normal, so I had to go and save the old tabs, and that got me back in. It just was crazy, but anyway, in my postings, I had to declare some certain things, like that I was a lesbian, and I wasn't, but I declared the right to be if I so chose, because the man I had loved had died, and I said, well, I'll take that one, that one, that one, that one, that one. There was 50 of them, right? There was, and they all wanted to vie and get married, and I said, no, I'll just take all of you. Yeah, I'll take all of you. You do this, you'll do that, whatever. And I just wasn't committing at all. And it was problematic because a princess supposed to have a prince, and they were doing everything while Disney was there, and they were showing up, and please give us something. I'm like, I can't give you anything. Mine died, and so I said, well, I could always just be a lesbian, and they would send all of them in, and I just wasn't interested. And I just wasn't interested. And I knew to abstain because I knew that Goddess said that if you abstain, and it wasn't even a typical conversation, it's just a desire to abstain, because I knew I'd stay alive. And I know that the capability was risen, and I know that it was so easy for me to climax if I needed to, without any type of stimulation. It was just be in the right position, and boom. It's something that started about 15 or 16 years ago. I decided not to participate in anything, just to study, and Goddess said, I'm going to bless you with something, and she taught me how, and it was a significant, and it's kept me happy, and I don't share it with anybody, but I had to, because God says I need you to, because it's going to bring this one down. And so 33 orgasms in under 30 minutes, one every minute, but felt like it was one sometimes every 30 seconds. Maybe it was only 10 or 20 minutes, I can't remember, but there was like a ton of them. And not being able for this great producer of film he's got to go back and explain that he didn't orgasm doing all that. So it's funny. And I wasn't really getting off on him, right? Not really, but it's just there. He's not at all anything I'd consider. It was a situation, and I had to get that man off of my lot, my land, and I had to overthrow that concentration camp, and I did. I kicked the tar out of David Fuentes, who was the manager and the military expert, who had been released from duty because he's gay, and he went into black ops for private industry and utilized his military cards, and that's what happens. And the um, problems are significant, and I'll go into that later. But the important thing is that um, I declared myself a lesbian when I've never known the the pleasure of a woman, and a woman's never known my pleasure. And but I kissed a woman, and that was a long time ago, and that wasn't bad or anything like that. It was what it was, and it wasn't anything that I think is inappropriate. And it's not that I think that the act is inappropriate. It's part of the handmaiden, and I support that. I even support prostitution, but I'm not a believer in forced prostitution or human trafficking. But boy, do I care about the woman's right to to utilize her capability to further her life expectancy, or to take care of her children, or to put herself through med school, or her just doctorate or something, anything that is uh, uh, within her capability without harming. And the problem that I have with the industry uh, escaping is that it's warfare, and they're doing things like selling diseases. Send your skank over here and she'll get syphilis 3 and AIDS over there, and they start collecting these things, and they make a super skank, and then guess what? You're dead within a month or so. And I said, I'm not going to participate. So for the men who said, I need you to come out here, or I need you, you have a date. I don't have a date. You're not selling me. I'm not going. And I'd fist fight sometimes, or I'd kick the tar out of them with a metal wand. And it's an old. I had a gear shift, and it had a padded, like a gear shift from a car, and it was removed, and it was a thick metal um, that extended out about a foot and a half or so. Bam! If I had to. And I had knives, and I had bats, and I had clubs, and I had things hidden everywhere. My RV, scissors, screwdriver, um, scraps of metal, so that I knew where to reach if someone invaded. I knew where to go to in this area, this room, if someone had invaded while I was sleeping. I knew where everything was hidden, the weapons, everything I could to stay alive. And that's the purpose of why I made the declaration of being lesbian, was because I didn't want the right. I didn't want to give them the rights to claim me sellable, and I didn't want to prostitute and be part of the human trafficking, or because that gave friends and family rights to beat on me as a discipline. And I wasn't going to put the gay and lesbian clubs, because I support all of them, and I'm a rainbow supporter, but I'm not a rainbow wearer for myself, but I support it. And my children do too. And the preferences are a private um, uh, discussion within ourselves, and that's something done um, between me and Goddess, and so I utilize that right, because I believe that in times where you have no options, that Goddess allows a woman to 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 be validated by her female group or friends, and that's fine. But for me, it hasn't been um, good because it's just not something that I want to do, and that's because I hadn't given up yet. And just so that you know that Nessa knows that I've declared it, but I'm not. And that's because I used it to keep from having to prostitute. And the police needed to know because they know that there's no way a lesbian could be a skank because a skank is a nymphomaniac, and I'm not a nymphomaniac. I can abstain for months and months and months without even pleasure, and I can do that and withstand strain and stress of humiliation and being stoned and being violated and set on fire and terrorized, and still not. That level is like you cannot begin to understand. But I stayed there for 7 years, and it was significant. Um, so with that said, I just wanted to pray that you understand that I believe I have rights to use it because it's an option, and it's a beautiful lifestyle for some wonderful people, and I bless it because I understand that maybe nature hasn't chosen a partner yet for certain women, and that's because friendship comes first.